protection for their criminal organization. Now they're wiping out Palestine's DNA. They have no Semitic genes, no humanity or class. Now the avatar is coming and he's gonna kick their ass. Yes, the avatar is coming and he's gonna kick their ass. This was all set up so very long ago, before Jesus gave the old heave-ho to the money changers in the temple. God has always been in charge, while they were out there living large on the money that they stole from other people. There is no such thing as the Federal Reserve. There is no such thing as the Federal Reserve. It is a worldwide banking mafia cartel, an extension of a fabrication they call Israel. And who owns all that interest on American debt? Are you getting it yet? Are you getting it yet? It's been a long time coming, but God watched them all the way. They almost pulled it off until his angels had their say. They live the dream of matter. When compressed it turns to hell. He'll give them what they're after. You can track them by the smell of the burning hate and anger, the nasty lust and greed, the coveting and scheming. They are the demon seed. There is no such thing as the Federal Reserve. There is no such thing as the Federal Reserve. It is a worldwide banking mafia cartel, an extension of a fabrication they call Israel. And who owns all that interest on American debt? Are you getting it yet? Are you getting it yet? Wake the fuck up! Are you getting it yet? Are you getting it yet?
The views expressed in the following show are of the host, the guest, and the callers. The content of the following show, its accuracy, authenticity, and the ramifications of the use or application of said content is the responsibility of those speaking and listening, not the broadcast medium.
And now, live from Chicago, here is the Black Knight of Talk Radio, James Arthur Yancek.
All right, we are back and we are live. When we do have Less Visible on, we also get the joy of hearing his new music. He's been putting out music like I wish they were putting out fires in the West, but a lot of stuff coming on. So that was nothing. There's no such thing as a Federal Reserve. I did notice that it stopped. It started about a verse into it, so there's ways that you can listen to these things through listen for the whole thing. But so that's always great to hear from. I mean, Les, I like having him on here. I mean, it's both invigorating, soothing to hear common sense and spiritual reasoning and so on. It's also taxing because we deal with some of the things happening in the world which are bad. I don't know what word to say. The title of this one is The Elephant in the Room, and in the last few weeks I've been not only reading Les's columns, but also seeing the news and seeing videos. Tucker interviewed a retired Army guy who was explaining what was going on in Gaza, and that's bad, right? But then the ads that pop up on the video feed for these things are bought by Israel, saying that they're lies, showing pictures of the kid who was killed, who's really still alive, but the guy who took the pictures says, yeah, I took those pictures 2 different times, and they were both when he was alive before in 2 different locations, and they're claiming it's claiming that it was a later picture, and it's just amazing, and the amount of money that goes into these ads to overwhelm it. I don't know. It's tough, but I wanted to talk with Les about, what's going on with Gaza and all that, plus other things that are happening in the world. I voted for Trump. I'm a Trump fan. I don't, I'm not a fan of personalities and all that. I'm talking about stuff to get done, right? So, and there is a bunch of stuff, good stuff being done, but, my way of thinking, and the reason why I don't eat meat and stuff is that the killing of the innocent is the number one thing that God doesn't like. I mean, number two would be hypocrisy, but the killing of the innocent, right? So you can do this over here that's good, you can do that good, but there's killing of innocent here that has to be dealt with. And when it's your responsibility as a world leader or whatever, corporate leader and all this, and you're accepting this stuff as part of it, like, I mean, in World War II, you'd hear about what there's going to be 10% casualties. We have to accept that. Well, at least you're talking about the warriors, right, who are doing it. It's not okay, but it's like at least these are people that have nothing to do with it. I don't know what to say. It's tough. So naturally, when I think of these things, I go to Less Visible to come in and help make sense of this. Les, welcome back to Feet to the Fire. Okay, now you're on. Greetings.
Greetings, James, once again.
I don't
Yes,
know,
about
Les, it's really tough because, again, out of all the people running for office, I looked at Trump as, I still think that he's best of the lot. That doesn't mean, but I'm having trouble with this. I'm having trouble with the killing of the innocent being overlooked and talking about big deals with tariffs and all that, which is all good stuff, right? But it's like, wait a minute, we'll get back to it. I remember Bible verse where they brought offering to the altar, and they said, wait a minute, go take care of the problem you have with your neighbor, then come back and give us the offering. I mean, there's so many things about this that are wrong, and it's upsetting, and I don't know. So actually, I turned to you for some comments and help on this.
well, even worse now, Satan Yahoo is saying that Israel didn't bomb all of those places in Gaza. No, it was Hamas who blew up the buildings. Yes, he went on national TV here in an interview. I think it was Fox or one of them. And he said, we didn't do any of that. That was all Hamas. They rigged the buildings. And that's what brought them down. I mean, so look at it this way. It's completely absurd. They're getting away with stuff they never should have got away with. They are full-on psychopathic Satanists. There's no other way to look at it. But God is in absolute charge. So you've got to look logically at the situation. And that says God is letting this happen for the world to see it as it is. And he wants it very clear in people's minds when he comes down very, very hard on them, as he is going to do. And so it's unfortunate. We have to see this, the amount of hypocrisy and lies, the abuse, the terrible offenses being committed, not just by Satan Yahoo, but by Gever and Smotrich and these other demons that are in his cabinet. They have no conscience. And this has been characteristic of these people for centuries. It's how they are. They are completely materially focused. God does not exist for them. And I find that kind of absurd because God promised them this land, but as far as they're concerned, God doesn't exist. So I don't know how they reason that out, but there you have it.
Yeah, one thing you said is true, and I do tell myself that God is allowing these things to happen. But I also know that God isn't up there like some kind of a tyrant, right? And saying, you guys are going to march to my step. He wants the people to learn the way to go. And sometimes you learn that by going the wrong way and seeing where the wrong way leads. I mean, I got all that. And I also know the innocent will be rewarded or taken care of, or, all tears will be taken away. So, I mean, I see that in the future, right? But we're in this now. We're in it now. And I'm an American citizen. I'm paying taxes. I voted for the president. There is other people are doing. Gabbard seems to be doing pretty good, and Kennedy's doing things, and that's good and all that. But it's like, I can't, when people say, God bless America, and there are many blessings here, they seem to qualify that by going, well, because we're Christians, God will take care of us or whatever. And it drives me goofy because it's like, well, these other things are happening by this Christian country too. And God sees it all. So, I mean, I get kind of frustrated when I hear some of the arguments of why things are, God is blessing us because we're basically so wonderful. And there's, the United States has done a lot of wonderful things. People in the United States, I got that, but this can't continue. This is outrageous.
Well, you only have so many options. One is that you can go full tilt reactionary and you can start taking people out because that's always an option, but you're not going to get them all. There is very little you can do. The other thing you can try to do is to reach people to help them understand what they apparently don't get. But then you see that the media, the larger media that everyone sits hypnotized in front of, is controlled by the very people committing the crimes. So you're not going to get through that way either. So you're really pretty much curtailed. There's almost nothing that you can do except pray. Pray is what you can do. It's the most underrated power in the universe. People do not realize that everyone who sincerely prays for others has the ear of God. Guaranteed. That's a fact. You're praying for yourself, you might hear that too, but then you get put like in a holding pattern, like when you're calling up some big company and you have to wait for the person to come online because it's a personal thing. And God wants you to have the best, of course, but he's not as concerned about that because he's already taken care of you anyway. And you're probably being excessive in your requests. But when you pray for others, that is the very essence, not only of how the universe works, but of the message of Jesus Christ. He came to show that service is the key, and sacrifice was the ultimate expression that he took it to. But all of his efforts was in serving others. And he had these same questions to deal with. They were coming to him like, what about the Romans? Look what the Romans are doing. And what about this guy over here? And he's doing that. And or somebody else is giving him static about, spending money on expensive ointments. So they could have given it to the poor. Well, the fact is the poor are the poor for a reason. They're always going to be poor. There isn't anything you can do about it. Eventually, their circumstances change and they cease to be poor, and one hopes that they take with them the understanding of what it was like for them when they were poor. But these conditions always exist. There's always a temporal world. There's always some big Roman autocrat. There's always someone running the show and City Hall and all the rest of that. You've always got to be dealing with this. But primarily what you do is you serve and you help. You do your part wherever it is that God put you. God didn't make Tucker Carlson out of you. He made Tucker Carlson out of Tucker Carlson. So he's got all that big exposure, and then he's getting an opportunity to do certain things. Everyone's put in the position, and very few people are coming up to standard, up to snuff for what they should be doing. And some of us are put in situations where we feel like there's so little that we can do. Well, then you do that little, because God has an interesting way of changing your circumstances over time and suddenly putting you in a position where you can help more than you did before. But everything's a testing process, and we're on God's clock. He's not on ours.
Well, to me, that's the saving grace in this whole thing for my own self, is that I have a tendency to want to help people or like I internalize a lot of things that are external because I want to help. Some people call it empathy and whatever, but it's like, it's a good trait, but you got to know that great philosopher, Kenny Rogers, once said, you got to know when to hold them. You got to know when to fold them. You got to know when to walk away and when to run. And it's like, I'm available however I can help, whenever I can help, and just kind of just be there and let God do all the synchronicity and all that, which is going to be. And so that's kind of how I have some type of a peace with the whole thing. But every so often, you think about it, it just gets a little tough. I mean, and then it's the lies. It's one thing. It's one thing. It's when somebody says this, and here's the evidence, and here's what's going on, and those people go like, "No, they're lying. This is the real thing," and all that. And you're looking and going, you got two people coming up and saying these things, bold-faced. One of them is bold-faced lying. One of them is bold-faced part of killing and all that, and that effrontery, I don't know what other word to use, is amazing to me.
Mhm. Well, the darkness we're dealing with is extraordinarily complex. Okay. Here's an example. There I had that song on there. There's no such thing as a Federal Reserve. Well, no, there isn't. It's a consortium of a lot of individual banks, all of which are owned by the people who created Israel, and all of whom are the same Ashkenazi genetics as each other. Okay. And they have control of the money flow. So when they complain about the interest and, oh, the interest is skyrocketing, how are we going to pay the national debt? It's them we owe the national debt to. This is interest they're charging on money printed out of thin air. This is absolutely absurd and insane, but yet it's going on, and this is how Trump and all the rest of them are being controlled. Meanwhile, because of the way the system is, and their same kindred is doing this too, through BlackRock, they're jacking up the rents of all the houses because they're buying up all of the single family homes and apartment buildings in America in order to make this, obscene amounts of profit. So when everybody was kind of getting along okay and somehow managing to pay their bills, now they've got it where they're pressing people to the bleeding edge. And now they see BlackRock owns all these different things. They own the hospitals, they own the insurance companies. So now what they've done with the insurance companies, they got the insurance companies because they can use their lawyers to get around this. They're not paying anymore for all of these services they're supposed to pay for. And meanwhile, they've got the hospitals that they own jacking up the cost of things many, many, many times. $8,000 for simple blood work. It's insane. They've also got the food industry, which they're controlling as well. So they're jacking up those costs. So they've got humanity up against the wall, or at least the American people up against the wall, and they don't have time to think straight about what to say or do. And meanwhile, people are protesting against Palestine. They're being arrested and thrown in jail because we're not going to tolerate anti-Semitism. So he's pressuring all of these universities to pay this blackmail blood money, and all the money they're getting paid are going to these offended Jewish students who already have plenty of money to start with. It's absolutely absurd. So, purpose of demonstration. We're all being shown this for a reason. The reality we always come back to is God is real, absolute and real, far more real than we are or anything we see around us. So he does have a plan. Now, these Q-bots are saying, trust the plan. Well, no one ever understood where that came from in the first place. And now we find out that Mossad created that, okay? At least that's the word now. If you research into it and you track it back, you find out, oh, Mossad was involved in creating this mythos. All that aside, doesn't matter. Trust God's plan. They're good trusting this other plan here, which plan apparently not very effective. But why not trust God's plan? God has proven out over and over and over across time, and if you don't get dealt with here, you get dealt with later on. Reincarnation exists for a purpose, okay? Keep messing around, keep doing what you shouldn't be doing, and you're going to find yourself in a situation, oh, dear God. So.
Yeah, it's, you mentioned about trusting God and all that. I'd like to say it's a big noble thing on my part that I have faith in God, but when you really break it down, is like, there's no other hope. There's no other choice.
That's right.
I mean, it's
That's
like,
right.
it's if it wasn't for God, I would have killed myself a long time ago. I mean, there's no point of being here without God. because this is all going to be this is all accident from Big Bang, and we all just go away and die, and the world becomes a cold ember. I mean, that's crazy. It's the
Mhm.
biggest joke there is. So to me, and these things are getting to the point where there are people who maybe didn't think about God much or whatever, but they're being put in this position to make a choice. And that's what I think this wave is coming in, is that people are going to have to get off the fence and make a choice. You want to go with darkness? Fine. You want to go with light? Fine. But you're not going to sit on that fence anymore. And it's going to get worse and more obvious and more terrible, showing the difference between dark and light, that the people who still choose darkness, well, now they're choosing it openly, open-eyed. There's no deception anymore.
Well, bad ideas leave this zone with the people who hold the bad ideas. This is how evolution is supposed to work. And everything is basically an idea. Everything is a thought form. You are, I am. Big things that you see moving through the infrastructure of government and religion, those are all just thought forms, crystallized, sunlight brought down into form and made into a concrete object. And but people are more, plastic than that, and they come and they go here, and they develop these ideas about why things are this or why things are that because someone told them. That's basically what it is, and they decided what they were going to believe based on peer pressure, what their own advantage was, where the gain for them lies, or it just seemed convincing at the time. These ideas pass as God's big celestial clock turns. For instance, in the time of Pisces, there are all these certain things taking place because there was the lesson humanity was supposed to learn. It wasn't how to stay here on this planet forever, okay? It was how to learn the things that would get you off of this planet forever, hopefully. Now the clock has moved into Aquarius, and it moves through each of these different signs. And in each sign, there is a lesson that comes to humanity and new ideas that are put out. And meanwhile, the smaller clock is turning as a clock of reincarnation that are the generations coming and the generations going. And whole generations are born with particular dynamic, particular manifestos. There's a general understanding that comes with each generation that they come in here to do, and they're in conflict with each other, and that's how ideas are changed. So one of the ways that God handles things on this planet when he wants to is that he feeds the generations. And so each time the generation comes in, they make those changes that are necessary. That's how you got the 60s. And that's how you get, these various periods and states that you get. It's all under control.
I also mentioned to you before, I was following a guy on YouTube. He's a geophysicist, but he also looks at the energies coming in from alignments, planetary alignments, as well as the Schumann resonance and so forth, which is changing. And it was a very interesting guy. But he's been talking about how this energy coming in from the sun is very very large amount of energy, both electrical particles and all that. You also had two supernovas that appeared in the sky. I think they're within a month of each other, so that's going to shower with cosmic energy and X-rays and so on. You have the tectonic plates acting up, perhaps from soaking up this energy, which is what he's alluding to. And you have earthquakes in diverse places, if I may quote. It seems that things are really kind of going to a head. So, I've been I don't want to say studying, but following almost like a interest or hobby on the whole end time scenarios versus the 70s, right? Dr. Jack Van Nippy and so on. But it seems that the difference between now and other times in histories is the volume of them, unanimity of them happening all at once to these unprecedented levels, and this is happening, and now we have world wars are easy to have. I mean, you go back 1,000 years, you couldn't have a world war. Well, you had one, meaning like they had one in Europe or something, because that was the world at the time. And things are starting to fall into this. So, I mean, it seems to me that something's coming to a head. And I also think that various religions, especially the eschatological aspects of it, they're not correct. They're reading the signs too literally rather than looking at them energetically or spiritually. And I've even had people are happy that these wars are coming because that means Jesus will come. Do you think Jesus is going to be happy that you're happy that wars are coming? I mean, this stuff's driving me nutty. So, I mean, what do you think about the times we're in as far as, I know you've been talking about Mr. Apocalypse coming and whatnot, but let me get some comments on that.
Okay, well, let's try to put what's happening right now in the world into perspective. Trump and Putin are about to meet in Alaska. The people leaning on Trump, and boy, they are leaning on him good. And they're the neocons from Israel, people connected to Adelson and some of these others, and Howard Lutnick and the rest of these people that are driving the agenda of this president who's not in control of anything, actually. Well, you got this situation in Ukraine, and they're crazy about it in Europe, and they really want to come and deal with Russia. Okay, so meanwhile, Poland has got this whole army massed together, and NATO has got this army that's moving into position in Poland and Belarus and around these areas here, hoping to set up a situation where a big confrontation will go down. And they don't know Russia very well, okay? And this is going to be a big mistake for them. Oh, a big mistake. Because Russia also has China in its corner, North Korea, and others.
You can ask Napoleon and Hitler about Russia. They'll tell you.
Yeah. Well, exactly. So this is very stupid on their part. And they really think that they're going to see, this is BlackRock here again. They want those resources in Ukraine. And the usual suspects, and we know who that is, they want Ukraine, period, because that's their homeland. They're the ones that started this trouble there in the first place through Victoria Nuland, one of their stooges, and the rest of these people, the American neocon movement. Her husband's a classic example. Anyway, they're doing this, and he's going to get sucked into this. You can be sure of it. And this is what they're hoping for. NATO and all the rest of the people, Israel, that are involved in this thing in Ukraine, they want America to get sucked into it. But what's going to happen when that happens is that the eye is taken off the ball as far as Taiwan. China will snatch Taiwan at the first opportunity. And Israel, who's trying to destroy Lebanon and Syria and everyone all around them so they can create this ersatz Israel. I believe it's called something else, but I call it ersatz. And while they get all tangled up in these different machinations, they're not going to be able to handle all of the other things. They don't really have the soldiers. They don't have the personnel. Right now in Israel, all their soldiers are committing suicide, and they're getting blown up wherever they go as well. The amount of them that's injured is unbelievable, and they can't get them to go fight anymore. They're leaving Lebanon. They're flying. They're leaving Israel. They're flying out of there. Many of them going to Florida, I guess, so they can hang out with Satan Yahu's son. And so they got no juice there, and they're putting heavy pressure on us to bring American soldiers over. Okay, this is just a simplistic framework of what's going on, because a lot of other stuff going on underneath, okay? Now, it looks obvious to me that they're going to get involved like on a glue board of things that they can't get free of, and then all this other stuff is going to come down on them. And meanwhile, Lady Nature has got all kinds of things stored up that are about to start happening. I know you mentioned that the big one is coming to California, according to this geophysicist. And see, this is something no one really pays a whole lot of attention to, because the political thing is screaming for their attention, and Ukraine and Russia, and yeah, okay. But all perfect storm is forming. It's going to come together because God wants the world's attention, and this is how he's getting it. And I am afraid to say, but I'm not afraid to say it, but I am afraid that some very unfortunate things are likely to happen in a very big way that are going to affect a whole lot of people. But then when you look at the fact that the usual suspects, again, are trying to kill off most of the human race through their killer vaccines, of which they own every single company that makes these vaccines. And it's already been proven that these vaccines kill. They affect people in such a way that they can't go on with their lives. They get all kinds of pathologies coming where they're not dead. They wish they were dead. And this is just still going on. And Bill Gates is doing this stuff. Nobody's stopping him. Soros and companies still over there doing. Nobody's stopping them. All the people need to be stopped to make the world a better place are actually, it seems like, hands off from all the people that are supposed to be making the world a better place. So it's extraordinarily confusing, which is, once again, I come back to the simplicity of the fact that God is absolutely in charge. His will is inviolable. And this is an apocalypse. I mean, you could look at that even from a scientific standpoint, as far as all the uncovering that's going on now and all the revelations that are coming out. And so all these different things happen in an apocalypse. But another thing that happens in an apocalypse is that heads roll. And heads are about to roll. People are going to get out of their depth. Israel very likely may not even be around at all fairly shortly. So there's a lot going on we don't know about behind the scenes, but you may be sure that Iran, who I left out of the conversation with China and North Korea as allies of Russia, they're also very potent. They would have wiped out Israel. They certainly can, but America stepped in, and that caused them to step back. Well, that's not going to keep happening, okay? Sooner or later, they're going to get it because they can't stop. See, Israel can't stop. They can't stop messing with Lebanon. They can't stop killing the Palestinians. They can't stop any of these things. They're out of control. Like that great quote says, when God wants to destroy someone, he first drives them mad. And that's a fact. As these people have been driven crazy, they're absolutely batshit insane. And they're going to keep pushing and pushing and pushing. And then they're going to push themselves right off a cliff. And you can take that to the bank. And speaking of, ironically, of course, with the bankers.
Pun intended.
Yeah. But you can literally take that to the bank. Their time is up. On the positive note, if people just want to know this, it's all going to get fixed, people. Believe me, it will. This golden age is coming. Nothing's going to stop that. That's pretty much a guarantee. The avatar is coming. But in the meantime, whenever you want to do major construction, which is what's going to be happening in this world, especially with the new technologies, you first have to do the demolition, okay? And some of the demolition has been very bad, like in Gaza. But otherwise, there's going to be a lot of demolition that has to go down because a new world has to be built, and it has to be built somewhere. And so that is going to happen.
What about Bobby Kennedy? I mean, he fired the whole group of people who were working on vaccines. He defunded the mRNA vaccines. I mean, I unless I'm missing something, I mean, it's pretty good stuff. And I'm surprised that they're allowing this stuff to happen.
He said mRNA, we just get rid of it entirely because there's just no good to be gained from this, and it's over. The problem with Kennedy, if there is one, is that they got their hooks into him too. You see, he has not always been a really good boy, and he has done some things that that some people can hold over his head, if the case may be. But apparently, it's not slowing him down. The problem is, it's too big a job for one man. You know, there's all sorts of the tip of my nose keeps itching. I have no idea. Anyway, you need, I don't know what it is that you need, but I just look at him sometimes. He's one guy here trying to address these enormous issues, okay? And then having to go about them a certain way through legislation and the various other slow, tedious processes that are necessary. But yeah, he's one of the bright lights. I mean, I see every now and then he said this or he did that. I'm going, well, hey, and he's very well informed. You cannot bullshit this guy. He knows where the bodies are buried. He knows what's going on. If he is not saying as much as he could be saying, well, that's one thing, but he knows. So this is a good thing. There are a lot of other good things going on. Like I say, I mean, and even in the social construct, the changes they made to SNAP, and EBT cards, like you can't buy candy and soda anymore. And you see how the videos on TV where people are spending $800-900 at a pop, and you look at what's in their shopping carts. And you're surprised they're still alive, basically. Now they're screaming and yelling, well, I ought to be able to have a soda when I want to. Yeah, well, then go buy it. But now they're fixing it so that you're going to have to work. You can only stay on these programs for so long. You're going to have to be unemployed. And I know of a bunch of different things like this. They're all going on. So slowly but surely, positive things are coming in. But there has to be a sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? A demonstration of the balance of powers. Like who really can do what, Is America not just bluffing about a whole lot of things they're saying they can do that they can't? The hypersonic missiles and all these other things that the other guys have, of which there is no defense against. Come on, and so obviously, and the same with NATO, a completely bankrupt group of people who are not in a position to do anything except devious behind the back stuff and sabotage and the rest of that. They're all going to have to find out where the power lies. They won't stop pushing, every single one of them. So they're going to run into a situation where it's going to be made very clear to them. And the whole world is then going to shift around and everything's going to have to adjust to that. So,
I mean, one of the, every so often I'll hear something that's so like, what? That it definitely lets me understand where people are coming from is when you're talking about cutting back on Ukraine and here Europe went on and said, well, we're gonna do without America if we need to do it. And what? I mean, Russia is powerful. I mean, I don't know what words to say. I mean, they keep talking about America being the lone superpower. Every time I hear that, I cringe. So they're going to go up against Russia? What are they hoping that if that happens, then the U.S. will have to come and get involved? And it's ridiculous. And now think about Russia. Russia has a lot smaller GDP. I mean, I've heard people say Texas and Russia are about the same GDP. I don't know. All right, so you have this smaller GDP. You have trillions being spent in America on defense and all this. They have a fraction of that, and they are equal and superior, depending on what you're looking at. They're doing it more efficiently. They're doing it more patriotically. They're I know I saw some video years ago about Putin going into these companies and saying, like, if you don't work this out, I'll come in and do it, and they work it out. The billionaires and all that. But it's like I don't. If Russia's got all these sanctions on them, and yet their dollar or their ruble is based on gold, they have paid off all foreign debt. They have, real hypersonic missiles. They have all this stuff, and I'm going like, doesn't that sink in somewhere to somebody?
The reason that we can spend so much more money on defense is because a much larger portion of our money is being stolen, whether it's by Boeing or any of these other people or the politicians, or like in Ukraine, we sent them $100 billion, $150 billion. Nobody knows what happened to it. Yeah. So you see, this is all a silly game going on. In Russia, they don't operate under these liabilities. And as far as a superpower goes, China is a bigger superpower than America. It just hasn't dawned on them yet or been proved. But China's way ahead of us. China is, they're scary in different ways. I don't know quite how to think about them. A lot of my philosophies come out of China from the long ago, Lao Tzu and a variety of things that I follow and believe in have to do with China in another time. China is communistic now. I don't quite understand that, but some places communism is the only thing that'll work. That's another fact. With that huge an amount of people, yeah, you probably need that. However, Edgar Casey said once a long time ago that you'll know that things are about to change when China goes Christian. So apparently that's supposed to happen too. We have to keep in mind that, the Israelis are trying to get, oh boy, are they trying to work China? There's this whole number going on here, okay? But China has not forgotten about the Sassoons, okay? The Sassoons and the Opium Wars and all the terrible things that the British imperialism visited a bunch of China does. One thing China doesn't do is forget, okay? So they play their cards close to their chest. That's how China operates. That's where the word inscrutable comes from. Okay. It's related to these people. So, China's just there and go, yeah, we know where you're coming from. And he's made some comments to that effect as well. So this is all going to sort itself out, but everyone wants it to their best advantage when they do the sorting. Okay. They got time. They're not in a big hurry. And as far as Russia goes, Russia has more resources than just about anybody else. So that's not just power for themselves that they can convert into weapons and different things that they don't have to buy from someone else, but it's also a negotiating key that they have with China, which does not have the resources. Well, they may to in some degrees, but Mongolia as well. Who knows what's going on there? But Russia has this cachet, that comes about from having all of these minerals. And now they've taken those areas in Ukraine as well. And this is what's incensing these people, because they just grabbed a few of these locations, okay, that were already promised to BlackRock. So
yeah, that's the nice. When I got the BlackRock and buying up the stuff, then it started to make more sense to me, because I thought that they just wanted to give Russia a black eye for the hell of it, but when I started to get about all that stuff, and then them making a deal with them for it, but we'll see what happens. Trump's supposed to meet with Putin. You know what? They're talking about Trump getting a Nobel Peace Prize. You know who really deserves it is Putin, because if it wasn't for him, we would be in World War III.
Who are you talking about?
Putin.
Oh, absolutely.
If it wasn't for him, we'd be in World War III now. He was the adult in the room, and he's been fighting this, holding back and all that, because he knows what's at stake. And I don't know,
there's this Italian lady too. There's this Italian lady, Francesca, who also deserves that prize, who's doing wonderful work, bringing the Palestinian plight. Yeah, what are you going to do? It's, it's so absurd too, with that Nobel Prize. I mean, it's been given away to some of the worst stinkers on the planet, okay? It's a complete joke. It's meaningless. Who would want that thing? You become unsavory just for getting it,
I mean, the Nobel Peace Prize started by Alfred Nobel, who invented dynamite.
Yes. Dynamite, exactly. Yeah.
And you know who I don't think they got the Peace Prize. Maybe they got the Peace Prize, but the inventor of the neutron bomb was given an award for humanity, because the neutron bomb didn't blow up buildings.
Didn't blow up buildings, yeah, exactly. Look, it's just comical and absurd. So you got to understand that they're never going to get it sorted out down here. That's not how it works, okay? We're going to have golden ages. They're going to be wonderful periods of time, but they're all going to decompose. They're all going to go away. Kali Yuga will come again. This is the nature of existence on this plane. The idea is to work selflessly to serve others and to set your sight on being able to do it even more, and of rising to a higher state of being so that you can no longer be touched by anything that is here. Meanwhile, there are people that want to be touched by what goes on here, and they get more and more deeply involved in it. And the more deeply involved they get, the more pain there is, because there is more attachment. Pain comes from attachment. If there is no attachment, there is no pain. The pain in the body comes from attachment to the body. So the key is to stop wanting, because as Christ said, consider the lilies of the field. You know, they neither spin nor whatever it said they do.
Spin no toil.
But
Yeah.
Solomon in all his glory,
Right.
not arrayed such as these. And he was trying to point out that God will take care of you, and what you get is what you deserve at this point. Just stop bitching about wanting more, okay? You want to deserve more, do more, okay? But even then, don't be attached to the fruits of your efforts. It's supposed to be, because then you can step outside of, you're not no longer get a mixed bag of, oh, there's some good stuff. Oh, God, I'm glad to see that. But here's the bad stuff. You get both of these things, okay? And I don't want any part of either one of them anymore. I just as soon not want anything, and God will take care of all my needs, which he's doing a fabulous job of. And I'll just do with what comes up in front of me. I pretend that I'm in a car, and all that I have to pay attention to is what's in my windshield, okay? Because that's what comes up for me, metaphorically speaking, of course. And the rear view mirror, okay, that shows me where I've been and what I need, what I'm leaving behind. But there's all this stuff in front of me is also going to be in my rearview mirror shortly. So none of it's important. What's important is the moment, because there's never any other time but the moment. There is no future, there is no past. So the more that you can get into the poetry, the pristine, brilliant, sustained beauty of the moment, and then you can be just in a radiating of the one thing, in a resonance with that Almighty God who is the essence of the moment itself and everything of any value in the moment. Then from there, you become like a conning tower that radiates, the same like a 5G tower or the conning towers of evil, because there are such things where they broadcast. In Israel, they got these guys that get in these little rooms, okay, and they chant ugly, evil stuff to summon demons, and ugly, evil stuff to harm other people and to radiate darkness and confusion out in the world. Yeah, they do this. There are these brotherhoods of darkness and evil in various parts of the world, and they do these things. But what doesn't often get discussed, because that's the part that we see, that we notice, but often doesn't get discussed, is that there are these other beings who are infinitely more powerful and more wonderful, who are also towers that broadcast and radiate, and that are radiating out love and peace and harmony, okay? And it's why the world is in halfway decent shape as a result. So that should be the aspiration of any individual who becomes conscious enough to realize it, that I just want to be more like that. I'm going to aspire to that. And it may be difficult for me to get there at first, because I got to drop a lot of things, because essentially that's all the problems that I got are things I'm carrying with me. Why don't I just let go of all these things and embrace this new thing? And it'll be like the way your taste buds change. You know, when you find you got to change your diet because you've been eating a lot of bad shit and it's killing you. Well, at first it's difficult, because it doesn't, the taste isn't the same. It's not what you're used to. It's not what you like. But guaranteed, if you switch that diet within 10 days, it'll be like you never ate anything else. And you now like what you're eating, okay? It's just always that critical time of transference, of change. Change is hard, and most especially hard when you're trying to change, okay? So you just have to decide on what it is you want to change into, and boom, because we're plastic in that way. We become like what we love. Whatever it is that's attracting us, we become like that. And the more like that we become, the more we are that. And then, well, I mean, you're going to aspire to be the Son, aspire to be God-like anyway, because you can't become God. That's way too out there. But you can become a God, you can become an angel, you can become any kind of a deva, whatever your aspirations are, people become demons just as well, okay? Or they're on this carnal loop just going around and around from lifetime to lifetime. And it's also doing this at the same time, okay? And they're up. And oh, this is just great here. Check out the view. And oh, they're down. This is not so hot, okay? And is it doing this? Well, it's doing this, okay? You don't get nowhere. You're going nowhere, and you ain't gonna get nowhere because that's not how it works. And that's what people are here to learn. They're supposed to learn that if you go over there and you bang your head against that wall, all you're going to do is hurt your head. You're not going to affect the wall. You can keep hitting that wall with your head. It won't matter. Okay. So you might as well stop.
Yeah, I've noticed that if one would do a fasting, not only does that happen, like you say, with the tongue and all that, but it's like an attitude changes to how you. It's like putting on glasses that change the way things look. You know, there's this kind of built-in thing that when you abstain from things of the world, there's I can't explain it. I don't know. Things change a bit. Now you could fall back where you were, fine. You know, in fact, that just proves that there is something that you're doing which is changing this. But it was very, very enlightening for me to see this.
Well, we often don't see what it is that's harming us in the first place. We think it's something that's good because we really want it. We can't understand why it never turns out good. You know, it's like romance. We will fall in love with people because of a surface presentation, because our idea of beauty is based on temporary appearance, okay? Well, that's not how it works. God doesn't love us that way. He loves us whether we're a little child or a crickety old man, you know? He doesn't love us any differently, okay? And that's what love's all about. But people fall in love with the world's idea of beauty, and it causes them incredible anguish. And they can't believe they were betrayed. They can't believe they were let down. Well, pay attention. Look at what it is that you love. The things that you love are destroying you. You know, money, power, ambition. I want this, I want that. But he has it. I'll find a way to get it from him. And that's how Israel really is. And the people that live there are very much like that. They see something they wanted, they start conniving right away on a way to get it. It's why they wind up looking the way they do. You know, the caricatures you see are quite real and spot on. Anyway.
I wanted to mention, you brought that up again. You mentioned about the Israeli soldiers leaving Israel. I mean, there's got to be people in Israel who are seeing this as well and are not liking it. Because, I mean, I've heard about Netanyahu had declare an emergency in order to not be voted out of office. I mean, is there a movement within Israel?
There are a very small amount of people who are in opposition. 83%. 83% of Israelis support everything the government is doing, and in many cases think they should do more. Have absolutely no concern about the children being killed. And this is hard, cold stats. This is proven fact, okay? And a lot of the people who are now turning against it, they see where their advantage lies in that. Well, I was against it, you see, and so a lot of them are doing it for that reason as well, for self-interest, okay? But the majority of the people in Israel, let's not kid ourselves. That's how they are. And that's why God's got them all grouped into that one place there too. Why, they might even finally get their 6 million. Who knows? So they go out, they have this place that overlooks Gaza. We go up there in the hundreds sometimes with cocktails and coolers, and they watch the bombing, they celebrate and they laugh and they dance around about it. Fact, they even went so far as putting in these, those things they have at Niagara Falls and Empire State Building, different people, you put like a few quarters in and you can look through. Yeah. They have those up there. Yeah, that's where they've gotten with it. Look at that woman, Daniela Weiss, the head of the Settlers. Oh, dear God. I have a song about her called, I guess it's called Daniela Weiss is Not Very Nice, right? It's on the Substack. she is talk about vipers and the things she talks about. I mean, you go, how can you say this? This guy that just shot this Palestinian in cold blood, Levov is his name or something. He got arrested and they just let him go with no charges. And he's right back in the same place with the people he shot. Okay. When the settlers attack people, the soldiers are right there to protect the settlers in case somebody reacts. I see video after video about this ugliness. It is just an abomination. These are some very, very bad people. They're the villains of our time. And they own, oh boy, are they well off, okay? Not because they stole all this money through the Federal Reserve, okay? They got the interest on the debt, okay, of money that they print out of. It's a scam. And like, meanwhile, we're all going along with it. All Trump has to do is say, no more Federal Reserve. No, we don't owe any interest. That's it.
Yeah,
Why
in fact,
not?
I was going to ask it earlier, and I got lost when you mentioned about the. It's like I asked somebody one time. I said, "All this debt, right? All of this debt we have, trillions. Who do we owe it to? And how did they get all that money to quote lend it to us unquote?" This is years ago when I did this, and I said, "Why don't we just not pay it? I mean, if it's not real money, it's not a real debt,
Yeah.
and you don't
Yeah.
pay it. And that if you did that, everything would fall apart, and that would
No.
just." I'm thinking like I don't know. It sounds to me like the Jubilee when it came around. They forgave the debt, but there was more of a realness to the debt, so to speak, actually borrowing money instead of printing money and saying, here, I'll print this out, now you owe me, and it gets into the trillions. So to me, I don't understand why the debt just isn't real.
Do you see what's happening with student debt? People have borrowed 39,000. I saw this one woman. She had paid back the original debt, $39,000. And now she still owed 59,000 because of the interest and the way they were computing the interest. And people are enslaved for life this way. The interest is greater than the amount that they have borrowed.
Right.
Now that's insane. And no one's doing a thing about it because the same people own that debt too, you see. They've got us all enslaved. And as long as we go along with the program, well, that's going to continue. They don't have me enslaved because they don't have nothing I want. But, oh my
When I went
goodness.
to college in the 70s, I went to University of Illinois. It was Chicago campus. It was $666 a year for 3 quarters. It was a 4-quarter system. $660 plus books, right? So the books were maybe $100 per quarter. That's what it cost. And if you did a 4 or 5 year plan, you're done, right? So when I hear these costs up this high, it's like, I know inflation. I know inflation has went up. I understand all of that, but that's ridiculous. Same thing with the medical bills. When they did the Affordable Care Act, I should have known better. Affordable Care Act is just a joke, right? Well, what I noticed around me is, like for example, when in the 70s and 80s, I took my mom to the hospital. This place many years ago, and it was a building, right? So years later, she had to go for tests, and this is maybe 20 some years later. She went for tests. I brought her to the hospital. I knew where it was, right? I'd been there. That building is in the center of this gigantic complex of buildings that are built around it, and I'm like, where does the money come from to buy this stuff? Well, when you're paying. I went to the emergency room when I had problems breathing with COVID.
Yeah.
And it turned out the COVID part was fine. It was the breathing part, right? I got a bill for emergency room for $10,000. I went to the emergency room for strep throat in the 70s. It cost me $50 or $500. $10,000 for 4 hours in the emergency room.
It's a scam. They're getting away with it because of the lobbyists and IPAC's tied in there. Okay. So, they're going to keep on doing it until someone stops them, and they're going to get stopped.
The doctor that saw me when I was in the hospital last time with the bleeding through the colon, he came in, how you doing, blah, 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 and then he starts to walk toward the door. I said, well, I got a couple of questions, blah, blah, blah. Okay, and he tells me something, and he walks a little more toward the door, and I said, what about this? He walks a little bit more to the door, and if I could do it all over again, I would say, like, hey, you're getting paid for being in this room. That's why you're here. You're not here because you care about me. You're in this room because I was here. Now, I want you to earn that money and answer these questions. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, well, it's gotten out of hand and it can't stay that way. That's just a fact. Now, the cost to go to these universities, a lot of them, is between $50,000 and $100,000 a year. And that doesn't include certain other features. So we have now created these class systems, the permanent underclass, kind of what they've had in the crown colonies all along. And the people on top. The people on top are going, hey, I'm on top. I don't care. And the people on the bottom are going, well, I want to be on top. So there's that hamster on the treadmill thing again. And they get you going, and and the carrot is here, and it's dangling, and you're going, because you're about as smart as the donkey, that's being whipped to go after the carrot through appetite, which is what's pulling it, appetite. When you can finally control your appetites and your desires, when you can stop wanting, you are literally in paradise.
I mean, this is years ago we were talking, and you mentioned something I never forgot, was that materialism, the end of materialism is insanity. It will lead to insanity. And I can understand that more and more because, like, materialism is fake. I mean, you're going to die. It's all going to deteriorate. It's going to either, it's like a transient thing, and it's being made. And once you have that thing, then a new thing comes out that you need to have, and then you go for that thing. And it's like, no, this stuff here, I got a studio around me. This stuff goes back to the 80s and 90s. It works. It works good.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm happy. With what I got to work, what I wanted to do, it does. I'm done. I'll drive that car as long as it works because it does what I needed to do.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway.
Well, materialism generates other things besides insanity, but none of them are good. It generates atheism. The more involved in materialism, God goes away. That's it. God is now seen in objects of desire. And also, materialism is Satanism. By definition, it is Satanism. So all of these things, they probably have a different demon that's in control of each specific one, but it's all the same puddle. You know what I mean? It's just a different corner of the dirty puddle. And if you get down into it, and then another thing, and this is how hell comes about, I believe, materialism is compression. Okay. And the deeper you get into matter, the more compressed it gets. And the more compressed it is, the more heat it generates. Okay. And that heat, which of desire, is hell. Hell is wanting and not getting. Okay. I mean, and if you don't want anything anymore, that's all it takes. That's the keys to hell. Want to get out of hell? Stop wanting. The only other thing that would put you there are the injuries that you have visited on other people. And everybody's going, well, they're not doing anything about these people. And these people did this and that. Look at the horrible thing this guy did, and he just got away. And there's just no justice in the world. Oh, there's justice, all right. God is very compassionate, very forgiving, and he lets things go on as long as they have to go on. And then eventually the bill comes due. And then at that point, there are hells. They're very real. Anyone who wants to see what hell is like ought to study Buddhism or anything in the various Hindu systems, Sankhya, and they will see that, well, they're all states of mind, of course. You have to be in the mindset in order to be in the place that reflects it. But you get yourself into these situations, and there are these creatures of nightmare who represent these actual forces that exist in you, and they torment you. That's what they do. They torment you. But you don't have to go there. You don't have to be part of any of that. You just don't treat other people that way, and don't covet. Don't be wanting all kinds of shit for no good reason. You get stuff and then you forget you got it. I mean, you want something so bad and then suddenly you have it and it winds up sitting over there. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's a form that's that insanity. And insanity it gives birth also then to convenience and the love of convenience. And so then anything that you can't get when you want it as quick as you want it, like through DoorDash or God knows whatever it is, the people that spit in your food before they give it to you, that becomes another kind of hell, because then frustration comes in. Why can't I have it when I want it? And I want it now. And you become like a 3-year-old, okay? And 3-year-olds can't get their hands on all these things they want. They're 3-year-olds for a reason, okay? When you get to an age of a greater maturity, if you've handled yourself properly, you can have anything you want. All you have to do is imagine it. That is literally all you have to do, and it will come to you. But by then, you have realized what is and is not worth having. And that's on the not worth having, that's 99.9% of everything. Because the only things that are worth having are qualities. Those are the enduring states that reflect places of being within you, mercy, compassion, honor, integrity, these various archetypes. These are actual vibrating realities. And when these things are active and alert with you, not only are they create a sanctuary and guardians all around you, just like the gargoyles that are up on the churches, but they also give you intense and unbelievable pleasure, joy, and enjoyment, because they're the qualities of God.
I got a question coming out of the chat room. If I'm reading this right, Neff Killer. It said, Les has mentioned the sun several times. Does he see something transcendent behind it?
Oh, absolutely. There's the black sun. And that's got certain occult associations that I am not referring to. But it's a light that's too bright to see. There is a light that can only be seen with the mortal eyes or the eyes of God. To our eyes, it's like utter blackness. You can't see it. It's that bright. The brightness we can see is the sun. That's what comes down and channels through. I mean, that's God in the sky, literally, but it's a vehicle, a channel through which God expresses. It's not God itself, which sun worshipers should know, but a lot of the time don't.
So, is the sun that we see the part that we could see manifesting from that, we'll call it greater thing, or is there something like behind it, you're saying, or a different frequency, a different...
Muhammad Karagos once said, he's a very obscure fellow, very few people know who he is or where he's from, but he once said, if you want to imagine the divine or what brings all of this about, imagine what's behind that. Then imagine what's behind that. Then imagine what's behind that, and you'll be getting close to understanding what it is. And everything, the solar systems, every star in the sky, the constellations, all of it, all emerge from that same thing we're discussing that our individual sun comes from. Every single bit of it isn't also ceaselessly maintained by that consciousness that holds it in being. And if it didn't, it wouldn't be there. It's like Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita. He says, if I'd stop doing what I do, everything would fall apart. He says, I can't do that. So I do this, even though there's no reason for me to have to do it. I don't get anything from it. There's nothing that I need, but I do it because of that, because I have to, and all right, about that thing. Each of these stars is an actual living being. It was once one of us, but we are the stars, when we have finally in consciousness realized the divinity within us. That's just how it is. And our sun, that's an actual character. And the Hindus call him Lord Surya. But apparently no one's ever met Lord Surya because there's always somebody sitting in for him. Okay. So I guess Surya is the planet itself. I don't really know. But now Lord Vivasvan is there, and he's the regent of the sun for 400 million years. That's quite a contract. Okay. Yeah. In the sun are huge communities wherein righteous creatures live. And if you could see them, and I've seen them on LSD plenty of times, when the sun comes up over the sky and it comes toward you, you can see the angels circling out of it, you know, with their trumpets and stuff and going, here comes the day. The Lord of the day is coming, you know, and all this kind of stuff. You hear horns and celebrations, all kind of very funny. I used to really enjoy that. I haven't taken LSD in a very long time now, but I am waiting upon divine intoxication. So I figure I can't have
developed, I don't know what the word would be, extensive on this thing to because my goal is to try to explain everything, understand everything, and it's so complicated out of our ability to understand. But what is true is the metaphorically, the analogs that come down into our consciousness are true. So it's not a question of understanding the physics on a higher dimension. We can't, right? We're not able to. But the truth is on every level. I mean, whether you be an ant on the ground, there's a truthness that an ant can understand, you know, and that going up to as you get higher, it's still true. It just gets more involved and you can wider. And so I have no problem with the sun itself being a live being. It's on a bigger dimension. There's more to it. What we can see in our 3D frequency is just hot ball of gas or whatever. That's what we can see. But there's more to it all. And it makes all that kind of sense that if you got God, if God truly is infinite, I mean infinite in the real sense of the word, God's always been here. There's no breadth to him. There's no width to him. It's infinite. He's been here forever. All the creation is forever, is infinite. All the beings are infinite. And all this, when you open that up to that understanding, to me it's very, I guess the word is relaxing. It's calming to know that it's not this thing that happened 6,000 years ago and it's going to destroy and that's it or whatever. We're going to sit around and play harps for the rest of our eternity. I mean, it's been going on forever, from ever to ever, everywhere. And I don't know. I just find that joyful.
They call it blessed assurance. Yes.
It's a good song.
Yeah. I was talking with my dear friend Sook the other day, and I was trying to get a point across, and that is that, and this is a really good image. People should always kind of try to remember this when they're troubled by certain inconsistencies in existence. There's a spring at the top of the mountain, and it's just pure water that comes out of the spring. And really, in terms of God, that's where you want to get, to where that spring and the pure water is. Because from there, the water flows down the mountain through all kinds of locations. And then it finally gets to the communities of humans. And it starts to move through there. And at every turn of where it is, it becomes more polluted. Okay. It becomes, because of the pollutants of the people who are taking a leak in the water or throwing stuff in there, or just the general vibration of how they're living and where they are. So they're like filters, okay? And this is like the truth of God. It comes from this really pure spring, but then it comes down through these filters. And then some of those filters are religions, okay? And it enters into these religions. And if you're getting the truth from a religion, you're not getting the truth. You'll get the truth in your mind by association with what the religion says. The religion itself is in the business of staying alive. It's a business like anything else. And it operates as like a big corporation, God's a freebooter. He's just wandering around without a cent in his pocket. He doesn't need anything. But the religions, whoa, my God, they're built to the grandeur of man, not necessarily to God. And this water comes down and enters into these religions. And sometimes it can, like Sharia law, you get things like that. You get these horrible blood tie realities of, insular truth, us against them, or we're chosen. Yeah, this sort of thing. Well, they're chosen by the devil. That's who they're chosen by. And if you study into biblical teachings and all, you find out very clearly that's exactly true. And but back to this water that comes, this clear, just beautiful water, which is the water of truth. Truth with contact. It doesn't lose its truth, but a veil appears over it. Okay. And so people see things through veils, and eventually the truth becomes completely obscured because there are all these veils over it. And that's this world out here that we're living in right now. Everything is relative. Everything is based on what someone thinks they're going to get out of it, so they turn it into a law. And that's how laws are made. All these people get together and they go, well, this is a really good idea. And we do this here, and, it serves no one but them, this law, and they just keep making more of them, and somebody's making bucks off of every one of them. Thing is to get up there by where that water comes out of, because further down here, you got to deal with all that stuff. And the more you deal with that stuff, the more you get involved with it, and the more you become subject to it. And the next thing, you're giving fealty to it. You're genuflecting toward it, and really it's beneath your contempt. So why are you doing that? It's like that stupid wall in Israel. They're all sitting in front of, I guess, they're like flamingos on a drinking glass, And the fact of the matter is that's has no religious significance at all. Okay. It's an old military wall that belonged to Rome. I mean, it's all a bunch of hocus pocus. It's all shit they make up. Okay. And they wear these huge, stupid hats, probably to conceal things they've stolen in them. And they're sitting there like this, and they dress like crows. Okay. And all these black outfits. They seldom ever bathe for whatever the reasons are that this religion has gotten them into this. Is a religion of minutia. They got tiny little laws for every single thing they do, like these kosher laws, you know what I mean? Things you can and can't do on the Sabbath. Just utterly ridiculous shit, We got a guy on X now who explains it all, and it's like, I'm listening to a guy, oh, this guy is really off his rocker. And he's explaining us, and this is why we do this. Hebrew for those who don't understand it, And, they got this religion, Judaism. Basically, it's Satanism, simply because of the degree of materialism that infects it.
Yeah.
It's all based on ancestor worship and the rest of this crap. And Abraham and all the rest of the people weren't Jews. There weren't no connection to those people at all. I mean, it's all a big scam, a hocus pocus, a mystification, like, hey, look over here. And they go in your pocket, see this, look at it. And it's gone on. It's that the long con. It's been going on and on and on. And, if you're taken in by it, well, that's too bad for you, because the more taken in you get, the more subject you become, and eventually you're enslaved. So probably a good idea, step away.
I mean, if you look at the Jesus, when he railed in the Bible, he didn't rail about the normal sinners we would think of. He went on and on about the Pharisees and all the hypocrisy.
Yeah.
You tithe dill, mint, and cumin, down to the spices. You'll tithe out 1/10 or whatever your spices, and you let the greater weight go away, like love and mercy and all this stuff. And it's like so right on. But you know what's funny now is if you are a Christian, you are, if you say I follow Jesus, whatever, you are hate. You're a hater. You hate the Jews because you're a Christian. It's like, I don't hate anybody, but I'm following Jesus' teachings, and that's all that's to it. I mean, you want to lock me away like they did in the old days, but what he said is true, and I'm following it, and that's just the way it is.
Yeah, and do that. These people, look, greater is that which is in you than that which is in the world. That's it. This power that is in me, all the armies of the world can't stand up against it. I don't have to go out there and prove it.
Right.
I'm already proving it by the fact that none of them are attacking me. That's another way of looking at it, okay?
Well, let's I'm thinking like, what was the?
It's that time, yes.
Yeah, I I'm looking to see if there's any other questions popped up. Rabbit Dog is saying hi. Here's some people popping in. All right. Well, I appreciate again the time. Every time we talk, I feel better. You know, where two or more are gathered in my name, there I am in the midst of them, and I feel it every time. So I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you, to get your views, your experience, your views. People have different views. You put together, you see a bigger picture. And so I appreciate the time that you spend with us, and we'll do it again, of course. And if anybody would have, if anybody listening now is not aware of what you're doing, I have all the links to get to your writings and your music and so on. That's what they can do. And I'd read your columns as they come out, or blogs. I would call them a column. And I appreciate your views on reality. It's like you need to see the real world, the real reality of things, and you need people to come in with that, kind of like the old commercials for the aftershave, that slap. You come in with that fresh slap of the reality, and it's reinvigorating and so on. And I appreciate what you're doing on that.
I'll just try to be useful. That's my whole purpose in a nutshell, being useful. And if I'm not, then I have to find a way to be useful.
Well, you are
more useful.
You are being quite useful. So,
Oh,
all righty,
good.
we'll say adieu for now, and until the next time, God bless you, and thank you very much.
God bless you. God bless everyone watching. It'll get better. Just have faith. Thank you.